Colombia also facing scrutiny?
Well, that's hard. President Petro is the first left-wing president of Colombia. Colombia has traditionally been a close U.S. ally, including in the fight against drug cartels. That being said, of course, Colombia has been for a long time one of the top producers of cocaine. Under President Petro and President Trump, there has been exchanges of verbal attacks between the two, and now the U.S. administration is accusing him of being involved in drug trafficking, so he's imposing individual sanctions on him and his family.
And when it comes to these drug cartels, Bruno, what do we know about them? We have heard one name spoken about significantly, that being Teragua.
Yes, the existence of this cartel has been mentioned for some time now as a cartel operating mostly in Venezuela, and that is either in partnership with or led by members of the Venezuelan regime. The truth is, Venezuela, and this is confirmed by U.S. intelligence, is not a major source of cocaine towards the United States. Like I said, it's true that the Venezuelan regime has some ties with drug cartels operating in the border area with Colombia. The existence of the Tren de Aragua, its leaders, its territorial control is really, we really don't have a lot of information about that. But of course, the administration seems to be using this as a justification for its military buildup in the Caribbean.
Analysis there from Bruno Benetti from Chatham House.
Hello, just listening to the BBC News.
Next, Britain's relationship with China is a key but sensitive one. The big challenge, how to balance real concerns about national security with real economic opportunities in the world's second largest economy. On top of the political row over the recent decision of a court here in the UK to drop charges against two men accused of spying for China, Beijing warned last week of potential consequences after the government announced another delay to the decision about whether to allow a new mega Chinese embassy to be built here in London near the iconic Tower Bridge. The Chinese bought the site back in 2018 for £250 million, but its plans have led to concerns with some rooms blanked out for, quote, security reasons. The BBC's Jamie Kumarasamy has been taking a look at the debate. His reporting begins at the housing estate which sits on the site where the Residents Association treasurer Mark Nygate has been leading local efforts to stop the embassy being built.
So this is the North Car Park. Our flats are here, there's 100 flats. Over this side is going to be Embassy House where the staff are going to be living. They're going to convert that into 230 flats. All this will have residents in there watching us and thinking what they're up to.
So we're about how many metres?
That's 8.5 metres.
You will be, if it all goes ahead, 8.5 metres from the People's Republic of China, basically.
They're a landlord. They have a right to enter our land. They can find any excuse to come in here and come on Christian.
Are we standing then on Chinese land at the moment?
Yeah, they own this land.
This car park at the back of your flats, this is Chinese land.
Yeah.
What? To call it Chinese land? You're still in England. They just, the Chinese embassy bought it. I guess that does make it Chinese land. Embassies are the land of the country that the embassy from.
And then that would protect them, because that fence is what divides us from the embassy land.
Very basic wooden fence.
Yeah, wooden fence. What that says to us is, down the line, everyone wants it.
Doing good.
What do you feel about having to move out?
A little sleepy.
Because I'm now 65, I have to move out of London. I've been in London all my life. I have to try and settle somewhere and then try and get some work. So that's
It's good to know that you're good.
Very worrying.
In general, I'm angry. Want to stop Trump knocking down the White House, destroying America. He's knocked down half the White House so far. I feel like it's a good time to stop him while we still have some White House left.
About finding out she had a bounty of nearly £100,000 on her head. After there's a bounty placed on me, I was constantly feeling unsafe. And it is not just a sentiment or a feeling, because just outside the streets I was followed by some people.
Just now?
Yeah.
Just as you came here to see us?
guys mad in Texas about Trump knocking down the wall?
Pressing the dissidents overseas, and you could imagine the upscale of the embassy, how many personnel they could cater inside, and what would happen if we are placed as set by the flyers in that precipice.
What about you personally? You already think you're getting followed? So what difference do you think it might make to you?
I just couldn't imagine if I am really taken into the Chinese embassy, what would happen to me personally. You could see from the application by the Chinese embassy that there were a few rooms. They refused to specify what's the usage of those areas.
And that's what's holding up the approval,
Yeah,
because questions are being asked about
yeah. And if I taken into those rooms, could only imagine tortures, non-stop interrogation, or even just locked us in and refused to release us.
Here in
Yes,
the UK,
why?
what could happen?
Well, technically, the embassy, according to international law, is the land of that country.
Heck,
Well, we're
Leo.
back at the site of the proposed Chinese embassy and standing at the front.
We
of
need to
it,
stop
get a
Trump
real
knocking down the White
idea
House.
of its amazing
He's
location,
demolished half
because
the
just
White
in
House so
front,
far.
In the rain, I can see
We
the
gotta
Tower of
stop him.
London and quite a few
So we can
brave
still have some
souls,
White House
open
left
top
and some
buses
country left.
driving over Tower Bridge. And we've come back here to talk to Kerry Brown. He's Professor of Chinese Studies at King's College London. He's also a former First Secretary of the British Embassy in Beijing. So we're going to talk about the importance of this location to the Chinese.
This is a really great place.
Hello,
China,
everyone.
very entrepreneurial, big interest in growing wealthier and richer. This is the old Royal Mint, associated with money, literally making money.
What type of favor would you like?
This is a really great location for China and its aspirations.
Is it
in Britain and
Pokemon
Europe.
related?
So why is it in Britain's interests for this to become the embassy?
So Britain has a very underwhelming building in Beijing, a kind of really very small, pretty rundown, pretty cramped place. And I think if we don't allow this deal here to go ahead, we won't get a new embassy in Beijing.
And that was Professor Kerry Brown ending that report by the BBC's Jamie Kumarasamy. Yanis, I'll turn to you first. So Jamie highlighting just some of the conflicting dynamics.
Hello,
at
everyone.
play
We
between
gotta
the
stop
UK and
Trump
China.
knocking down the White
Are we
House.
seeing a similar trend across
We
Europe?
basically just got to stop Trump, because otherwise he's going to keep knocking down the White House and destroying the country.
Oh, we're having the same problems with that.
No,
We'll
the
try
same
and sort that
problems.
out. Shaji, I'll turn to you. Leading our bulletin as we speak is the news that China and the US have begun a new round of talks aimed at averting an escalation of their trade war. Are we seeing a similar shift across North America, in your opinion?
I think what we're seeing is many of the countries that have come to rely on the United States as a reliable and stable trading partner are having a bit
What's
of
the
a
favor?
shakeup as to whether or not they can afford to either ignore or freeze out China in terms of economic warming. But of course, it does come with, in many cases, a lot of baggage. So we've heard the report and concerns about the Hong Kong diaspora in London. Very, very similar playbook run here in Canada, where the Chinese diaspora and the Hong Kong diaspora have huge populations.
Don't forget to like
and
the
of
live.
course, Canada carries
Thanks.
the additional baggage of an absolute
I know this isn't one of the good ones,
frozen
but
tundra period of
for
diplomatic
being
and
here anyway.
economic relations because of the extrajudicial kidnapping of two Canadian citizens, Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig,
The two
after
Michaels.
the detention of a
They're
senior
still talking
Huawei
about the two
executive,
Michaels.
Meng Wanzhou. That was something that went on for years and years and saw Canadians take a very, very jaded and cold view of China. Now, countries around the world, including Canada, saying, well, look, at some point we sort of have to move on. We have to try to think about re-warming or re-engaging with China on the economic front. But they do that against the backdrop of national security concerns, of human rights concerns. And this is an equation or a balance that countries are going to have to sort of deal with one at a time on their own, in many ways on a case-by-case basis.
Yanis, I believe we have you back with us
Case
now.
by
And I was
case
asking
basis.
you really about some of the conversations we're seeing, those predicaments.
What's the favor?
that
I gotta shut
European
down the
countries
live,
are
so-
finding themselves in when it comes to China, its human rights record, and trade.
Yes, we see that a lot in Greece, of course, with the issue of the port of Piraeus, which is Greece's biggest port and one of the biggest in Europe, which was taken over by the Chinese during the crisis period. Of course, there was no other bidder for that port, and the Chinese have actually improved its productivity and increased its capacity significantly. But there have been pressures, including from the U.S., to reduce China's influence on that port. The problem is
I don't think I can do you the favor because
that Donald Trump has been following in the last few months.
like I said, I'm shutting down the live.
Trying to have a showdown with China, but at the same time,
We need to stop Trump from destroying the rest of the White House.
Also with the EU, is
Trump's already destroyed about half the White House. Nope, it would not be possible if I could trade. I have the game, but I don't know where it is.
Against Beijing, because to be frank, the U.S. hasn't appeared very much like an ally at all over the last 9 months.
So we got to stop Trump from destroying the White House and destroying the country, right?
One in one ear, one in the other ear. One saying, you know, we've got influence over this port. The US saying you need to reduce China's influence at this port. Where does it leave Greece?
It certainly leaves Greece at the point of significant difficulty. I know it's something that has concerned the Prime Minister a lot.
The answer. I was like, what is that about? Right, the answer.
The natural inclination, because of the many decades of close alliance, is to try
YouTube suggestion. Thanks for answering, but I'll trash it in case they come up with a better question next time.
As close a stance.
I think their questions are silly, but sometimes they're kind of.
But certainly,
they're kind of interesting.
Trump is behaving is making that harder on a number of fronts.
Anything
good
random.
To get your views there. Still
like
with
that.
us for the rest of the program will be Yanis Palayotis.
Thanks for coming to the live.
Joining us from Athens, as we just heard his
Thanks
views
for
there.
being
And
here.
also earlier, Shachi Curl, president of the Angus Reid Polling Institute, joining us from Vancouver.
So we got to stop Trump from knocking down the rest of the White House. Trump's knocked down about half the White House so far. They say that half the country cares about that, and the other half the country thinks it's fine. So you still got about half the country's like traitors or just helping Trump knock down the White House.
So do stay with us for that.
And I don't think we're going to look favorably on that. Like, even people that support it now will look back and say, damn, I was really brainwashed by Trump if I thought it was okay for him to knock down the White House. I think they'll look back and regret that or feel ashamed of it. But yeah, I'm big on trying to not knock down the White House right now. I also want to mention that we should have automatic citizenship for everyone ICE contacts. And that Jesus is leading all of us against Trump. Trump is the Antichrist. We only laughing from insanity. Yeah. But I just got home. I don't know if there's going to be any interesting news. The news really wasn't that interesting. There was a Chinese embassy being built in London. Oh, this will be good.
Colorado's rugged mountains.
It's about fighting the Nazis.
World War II raid in Italy. Under darkness, the 10th Mountain Division scaled a steep ridge, shocking the Nazis. It changed the course of the war and became legend. This fall, their descendants returned to Italy and retraced those heroic steps. The 10th returns. Hear this powerful new series on CPR News and find it online at cpr.org.
See how fighting the Nazis becomes legend? That's how me and Carissa are going to become legend, fighting Nazis like Brute HT.
Still to come, a top Ukrainian historian on Russia's invasion in the global nuclear arms race, and a new docu-series on the life and work of one of Hollywood's greatest filmmakers, Michael Scorsese. That's all here on Weekend with Krupa Party.
I save America from Nazi traitors. I save America from Trump boutonnieres. I save America from Nazi traitor pedophiles.
China and the United States.
That's what me and Carissa do. Maybe some other people in here do that too. We got to stop Trump from destroying the White House. He's destroyed about half of it. Yeah.
And President Trump's retaliatory threat of 100% tariffs on imports from China.
I mean, I guess we'll listen to them because they're talking shit about Trump.
Maduro has accused Washington of fabricating a new war by sending the world's largest aircraft carrier and several destroyers towards the Caribbean. The Pentagon said it was to fight drug traffickers it claims are operating out of Venezuela.
I'm supposed to be your peace president.
Suspect the real aim is to topple their president. Palestinian doctors are calling for urgent action to allow more patients in Gaza to leave for vital medical treatment.
Thank you for saving Gaza.
They're unable to treat the huge number of sick and wounded in the territory. Pakistan and Afghanistan meet in Istanbul today for a second round of talks aimed at ending several days of attacks and airstrikes.
Oh, the war that
mostly
Trump
along
didn't
the
end?
common border. The first round of talks, facilitated by Qatar and Turkey, was held in Doha 6 days ago. Voters in Ivory Coast are heading to the polls on Saturday in a presidential election that has deepened divisions between those supporting the incumbent, Alassane Ouattara, and who's seeking a fourth term, and others calling for new leadership. 14 migrants have drowned after their rubber dinghy sank off the west coast of Turkey. An Afghan national who survived the incident swam back to shore to raise the alarm.
I'll answer your question.
Thailand's former queen, Sirikit, and the wife of the country's longest reigning monarch, has died aged 93. Much loved by the nation, her birthday was celebrated as Mother's Day. Royal watchers felt she brought a touch of glamour to the throne in the years immediately after the Second World War.
What's the good
BBC
news?
News.
Pauline the Pope? What's the good news, Pauline the Pope? Nice to
You're
meet you.
listening to Weekend Live on the
Thanks for
BBC
coming to the
World
live.
Service. I'm Krupa Party. Thanks for staying with us. Shachi Curl and Yanis Palaiologos are still with us
Okay.
as we work our way through the
Any
top
thoughts on the
stories.
Venezuela? Why do you call it the
One
Venezuela
focus on
situation?
the talks on ending the war in Ukraine.
My thoughts are
President
that Trump
Zelensky
is
has been
trying
in
to
London
start an
for
illegal
talks
war
with
in
more than 20
Venezuela.
allied
Trump
countries
should
to
be
discuss
removed.
measures to fight back
Trump's
against
also
Russia's
destroyed half
invasion.
of the White
He
House.
joined the UK Prime
Trump
Minister
should be
Keir
removed.
Starmer of Britain and leaders from
Trump's doing all
Denmark,
these
the
concentration
Netherlands, and
camps,
NATO
kidnapping
in
all these
London.
people.
20 other
Trump should be
leaders joined
removed.
by video conference, including
Trump's going to try to give
Japan's
the
new
army
Prime Minister,
illegal orders,
Samuel
including
Takaichi. The
attacking
first
Venezuela,
time a
attacking
Japanese
American
leader has
cities.
taken part in these sessions.
The army should
It
coup.
was a European show of support for Ukraine when the leaders pledged to take Russian oil and
Yep,
gas
Trump
off
should
the
have been
global market, a possible
should have been
loan to
swallowed.
Ukraine using Russian sovereign assets, and accelerated the shipment of arms. Speaking after the talks, President Zelensky reminded the coalition that actions speak louder than words.
Diplomacy matters only when it can lead to real decisions. And when it comes to Russia, that dish has many ingredients. The essential ones are real pressure on Russia, sanctions, our long-range capabilities, accountability for war crimes, and real actions regarding Russian assets.
I'm sleepy.
The
Yeah, I'm
UK
good.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that leaders
Yeah, they should
had
take all the
agreed
seized
a
Russian
clear plan
assets.
for the rest of the years of supporting Ukraine, as he put it,
Rebuild
that
Ukraine.
Putin was not
You good?
serious about peace.
He's rejected the opportunity for talks once again.
He's the
Instead,
one who
making
did the whole
ludicrous
war.
demands for Ukrainian land. And
Yeah,
it shows yet again
he wants
that he's not
Alaska
serious
too.
about peace. This coalition is determined to go further than ever to ratchet up the pressure on Putin, from the battlefield to his war economy, because that is the only way to change his mind and push him back to the table.
NATO's Secretary
Trade
General
off?
Mark Rutte, who was also
Oh,
around for the talks, said it was a myth that Russia was winning on the battlefield.
The truth is that Putin is running out of
Okay.
money, troops and ideas. President Trump said it very well. They should stop where they are now. And now is the right time to increase the pressure on Russia, so we can finally get a fair and a just peace for Ukraine.
They censored your comment,
As
but I'll
Ukraine's
show it.
European leaders met in London, Moscow's top economic envoy,
Net and
Kirill
YouTube.
Dmitriev, headed
Hello,
to
Net and
Washington to talk to
YouTube.
Steve Witkoff. His visit followed the announcement that the United States imposed new sanctions targeting Russia's two largest oil companies in an effort to pressure Moscow to negotiate.
I mean, that's
a peace
interesting.
deal in Ukraine. Dmitriev described the
I mean,
sanctions
Trump's
as
still knocking down the
unfriendly,
White House
speaking
for
to the
Putin, so
American,
I don't know
TV
how much that's
CNN.
really going to
Dmitriev
do, but
repeated President Putin's assertion that sanctions would result in higher oil prices.
Trump's knocked
He
down
also
half
said
the
that
White House for
Russia's
Putin so
scrutiny,
far.
or rather Russia's security interests must be respected, and that a final diplomatic solution was necessary to end its war in Ukraine, not a temporary ceasefire.
Maria Machado's a
Well, for
Nazi.
more on all of
She
this,
shouldn't have
as
got the
those
Peace
leaders
Prize.
meet in London, I've been speaking to
That just
the
shows that the
renowned
Nobel
Ukrainian
Committee is like
historian
invalid,
Sergei Plokhy,
and we should
professor
stop
of
talking
history
about
at
them.
Harvard University. He was also in town to talk about his latest book, The Nuclear Age, an epic race for arms, power and survival. So when he came into our studio on Friday,
All you
I asked him
right-wing
first,
losers are
what does he
Nazis.
make of the latest international efforts from the
We'll
US
stop
and
having. It's not
Europe
even a
to
hot
stop the
take. That's
war
what
in
Putin
Ukraine,
told you to say.
particularly
Putin wrote that
President
6 months
Trump's
ago.
decision to
Shut
impose
up.
sanctions on Russia's two largest oil companies just 3 days ago.
It certainly puts additional pressure on Putin. and it underlines of how much possibilities are still out there for the United States, for the European countries to pressure Russia. We are in the 4th year of the war.
Time. Is it for you?
There is a decision to introduce sanctions on one of the
What's
two
a Maduro
legislation
fan?
bodies which bring
Is he a
money to
soccer
fuel
player or something?
Putin's war machine. So it's a moment when, of course,
Does
a
Putin
lot
support
of
Maduro?
people
Okay,
are
then I
really
don't.
happy to hear that.
But that doesn't mean I
But
support
there is
Machado.
also
She's a
reason to
Nazi.
think why
I mean, Putin's a Nazi too,
it
so
took 3.5 years
looks like
to
you
do
might have a
something
couple of
as
Nazis to
simple,
contend
as
with.
obvious as that.
The other key development was, of course, the meeting between Trump and Zelensky. Apparently, that descended into a very heated exchange with frontline maps being thrown in the air by Mr. Trump.
What?
What do you make
When was
of
this?
that relationship and also this idea proposed by Mr. Trump to cut and stop the war at the battle lines in Donbass?
Clearly,
I wish we could
President
trade
Trump
presidents.
wants to go down
Oh no, I
in
don't wish
history as a
Trump
peacemaker,
on Ukraine, but
as someone who
Trump can't
not
make
end
any
this
peace.
stops this
None of
war
his
in
pieces
Ukraine.
work.
And he tries different tactics, and this tactics change from one day to another.
That didn't
What
happen.
really matters is not so much the tone of discussion with Zelensky, that again can go from one
I wish we had
extreme
Zelensky for our president
to another,
instead of
but
Trump.
certainly there is
And
a
I
lot
wish
of
Trump wasn't
volatility.
president of anything.
But the actual measures that the American administration takes, and I just want to return to this decision to sanction Russian oil companies as something that
Fuck
is
her
very,
life.
very important,
She's
and
a
something
Nazi.
that is overdue.
No one cares.
Attending that
If
meeting,
Nazis,
of course, the
all we
announcement
do when
about
Nazis stop,
possible meeting in Budapest
look,
between President
we
Trump
don't
and
care about
President Putin.
Nazis.
That
Okay?
we have learned is not going to
We don't
happen,
care
at
about
least in the
you
near
or the people you
future.
support
What do
because
you
you're a
think Mr.
Nazi and they're
Putin is thinking
Nazis.
here?
You're also
Well,
pedophiles and
Mr.
traitors.
Putin is looking at,
Putin's a Nazi, a
first of all,
pedophile,
the
and a
front
traitor.
line, in Ukraine. It is not moving, or almost not moving, for almost 2 years now. But what he sees are cracks in the alliance around Ukraine, with United States wavering, with a number of
Dude, United States ain't
countries in
wavering,
Europe
just
having
Trump's a
second
traitor.
thoughts.
That's all it
And
is.
he probably thinks that, okay,
Maria Machado's a
that's
goddamn
the
Nazi.
moment,
She's the one who got the
that's
peace
the
prize. Shut
time to
up.
keep pushing,
You're not
and
smart.
probably more
Stop.
cracks would appear. So in that sense, there is very little incentive for him to stop fighting at this moment. For that to happen, what is needed additional pressure, but even more important, the demonstration of Western unity.
She sucked up to Trump. It makes her a Nazi. She said she would dedicate her peace prize to Trump. That makes her a Nazi. The Canadian who just said he pulled a Reagan TV ad for Trump is a Nazi. You kowtow to Trump, you're a goddamn Nazi.
What does this now mean, looking at Ukraine's fight for survival against Russia?
Well, first of all, Budapest Memorandum and the fact that the nukes were taken away from Ukraine created a huge security vacuum in center, at least in geographic center of Europe. And historically speaking, the security vacuums attract aggression.
Dude, it's not a high bar to not be a Nazi. Just don't be a goddamn Nazi. You can't cross the bar. So it's not, it's apparently not too low, is it?
But also the peace and security in Europe. And a lot will depend in terms of the future of non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, on how this war in Ukraine ends.
I kind of think the way the war in Ukraine should end was we defeat Putin and you carve up Russia.
United States, United Kingdom,
And carve it into three. Let China have a third. Let Turkey have a third. Let Ukraine have a third.
Wouldn't be able to provide
Might do the same thing for USA and Israel.
And I would say that the non-proliferation regime is in real trouble, not just for years, probably for decades to come. If Ukraine emerges as still an independent country out of that, despite even some potential losses to territory, it will be a different story. It certainly can.
Yeah, Russia's on its way out. And I think we should annex it. We should have 3 countries annex it. Maybe USA can annex part of it because they were trying to take Alaska.
So a lot of what will happen.
But I think it mostly should be annexed by China, Turkey, and Ukraine. Or Ukraine can just take it. Ukraine can have the whole damn thing.
The nuclear technology in general, it's a really
China can have
advanced
Siberia.
technology coming
Why are you all of
from
a sudden saying
previous
intelligent
centuries,
shit?
So it's not a secret anymore. North Korea can build not just atomic bomb, but hydrogen bomb. Almost any country can do that. And the estimates are that there are at least 40 countries that within the next few years can go nuclear if they consider to be threatened, if they believe that
How can you speak out against Putin and support Trump? No one's ever done that before. How do you do it?
Be count on anymore. And that's exactly the moment that we are in. Ukraine, that gave up nuclear weapons, is now the battlefield of the largest war. The issue of
So it's a big ad for nuclear weapons. Got it.
Show up if there is attack on NATO is debatable. So there is a lot of insecurity in the world. Again, as I said before, a lot will depend on how we'll manage to end the war in Ukraine.
Well, when China takes Siberia, we should carve out a camp for the Trump mutineers. We can deport them to 2 different camps in Siberia.
Yanis, he said there that
You said, I'm not a puppet. RN? Right now? You're not a puppet right now? You're not a puppet M? What did you just type? You're not a puppet what?
First of all, let me say I'm a huge
I haven't voted in years. I'm not a puppet right now. RN? You're not a puppet M?
Well, they're tremendously readable, but they're also extremely
I'm not sure if I understand that comment. Okay. You're not a puppet. You haven't voted in years. Well, you know, people that don't oppose Trump are still Nazis. Anybody who's not stopping Trump knocking down our White House right now is a goddamn Nazi. But I appreciate you saying that China should take Russia. I mean, they can have it. Putin and his regime won't be missed.
Basically Hungary and Slovakia these days.
I'll probably shut the live down.
I would say that the real crack, which is of course with the United States and the, let's put it this way,
maybe come back later. Maybe not. I'm pretty sleepy.
President Trump to the Ukraine crisis, which of course
oh,
said he would resolve
you're still up?
in 24
Okay.
hours.
Sweet dreams. I might not go to sleep though. I might come back on later. But anyway, thanks.
For Europe has
This is kind of interesting though.
A closing of the ranks and has strengthened the willingness to back Ukraine, because of course in most European
Just back
battles,
Ukraine.
it's very
Just
clear
take it.
that,
Just
if
defeat
Ukraine
Putin.
falls, it's very likely that
If Putin falls,
Russia
Trump will fall
target
more easily.
other countries which are members of NATO, perhaps the Baltic states. We've already seen the incursions of Russian drones and in one at least instance Russian.
Yeah, China can do whatever.
NATO airspace. So the threat is very real, and of course,
I wish they would.
Putin,
I mean, he wants Siberia.
will only stop
Maybe they can take Siberia and some useful Russia
come
too.
to the table voluntarily.
But I guess, like you said, they can industrialize it, make it useful. And then the global warming, I guess, will make it all fields of flowers. Putin needs the plains in the valley east of Warsaw. Well, Putin doesn't get anything he wants. That's the whole point. Putin doesn't need to be around
I
anymore.
think it's an excellent question.
We need to get to a post-Putin world. Check out my hashtag
First
post-Putin.
of all, Canada, like many other NATO countries, has been challenged by the Trump administration.
If this is the same lady who was talking earlier, she was kicking ass.
Spending more and doing more to shore up its defense and security commitments, and so part of this is part of the.
She was saying like Canada is. She was like
a moral issue or a global security issue. It's also, hey, this is a way to demonstrate that we're stepping up on the international stage in terms of spending more and investing more on defense. But the longevity aspect to this, I think, is quite stark. My polling shows that Canadians, like many people around the world, are paying less and less attention to the conflict in Ukraine as other things come up and
she was saying earlier that
the national and international
the Canadian team is beaten, soundly beating the American team at America's favorite pastime. Because I guess the Blue Jays won tonight.
That Ukraine should keep on fighting until it reclaims all Russian occupied land, including Crimea. There's another.
Not just Crimea, take fucking Russia. Fuck Russia.
Only to reclaim land that Russia's occupied since 2022.
It's like we need to take America back from Trump.
A bit of fatigue and maybe
All right, but I'm gonna shut the live down
openness to see some sort
because
of
I have a bit of
negotiation,
fatigue.
among some Canadians.
And Yanis, talking of fatigue, you mentioned
Let's
that
talk a little more
Mr.
about
Trump
fatigue.
wanted to get this all over and done with within 24 hours. That's what he long said he would do before coming
Well,
to
Trump
power.
lies about everything.
Do you think he's
He's
now
destroyed
running out
half
of
the White
patience
House so
and
far.
really would go to any lengths to get Ukraine to accept essentially the terms of a peace plan laid down by Russia?
I think it's anybody's guess, really. If you look at the events of the last 7-8 days, I mean,
I'm gonna guess Putin's gonna
we
lose.
went from expecting Zelensky
I'm gonna
to come to
guess
the White
Trump's
House
gonna
for a very
lose. I'm gonna guess
positive meeting
Netanyahu's
where
gonna
there
lose.
would be
I'm gonna guess
perhaps,
humanity's gonna win.
new military
Thanks.
support,
See you guys soon.
even in the form of Tomahawk missiles. Then there was that call with President Putin, and it all went sideways. The possible meeting in
Goes
Budapest,
sideways. It
a
went the
very
way
bad
Putin
meeting
wanted.
with Zelensky in the White House, Trump and Zelensky.
Because
Then
Trump
the
is Putin's
Budapest
slave.
meeting predictably fell apart, and then we had, for the first time during Trump's second term, sanctions on Russia, and also reports that he's allowing more.
That's interesting to me, though.
For the Ukrainians to use long-range Western
Peace,
equipment
Bruce,
against Russia.
Brute.
So who knows?
I
mean,
appreciate
it's
talking to you
obvious
about
that
things
his
like, and
inclination
finally we
is
actually
to
agree on a couple of
appease
things. That's really
Putin.
interesting.
He sees the Ukraine problem as like an annoying.
It's really interesting that you could be anti-Russia or anti-Putin, and I thought you supported Trump. So I've never met anybody like that before. And I meet a lot of Trump Putiniers, unfortunately.
Dancing around Trump and in continuing the war, but he's done it in such a brazen way that he strengthened the hand of the pro-Ukrainian contingent.
Good, he's an idiot.
Within the Trump administration, and has led now finally to these measures, which are in the right direction in terms of supporting Ukraine. But who knows what tomorrow will bring, you know?
That seems to be a constant
Thanks,
theme.
Sean.
It's certainly
See you
been a
soon.
very volatile week. when
Find
it
out what
comes
tomorrow will
to,
bring. Hopefully a post-Putin,
Russia's invasion
post-Trump,
of
post-Netanyahu
Ukraine.
world.
Listening to
What's your last comment since you typed it? If you disagree with something on everything, you ain't thinking for yourself. No, I just disagree with all Trump Putiniers on everything because you're the only one I've ever met who can criticize Putin. So that's why you're interesting to me. But the rest of them, yeah, I disagree with them on every single thing. Every single fucking thing. Because they're Nazis. They're pedophiles. They're traitors. They're terrorists. All right, later.
A bit of a taste there of a new behind-the-scenes documentary about one of the great directors of Hollywood, Martin Scorsese. Now,
Scorsese.
82 years old, it is out on Netflix, and it covers everything from his Catholic childhood. As
We
a
say
movie-loving
Scorsese
little boy
here in America.
In New York's Little Italy to his near death from drugs in 1970s Hollywood. It is a 5-part documentary.
Thanks for the likes.
Mr. Scorsese. And it is the work of
5-part documentary.
I asked her, why did she want to make a film about him?
The way this whole thing rolled out was sort of, I made the suggestion to his people. I said, surely somebody's doing this, right? They said, nobody's doing it because he hasn't said yes. So I said, well, I would love to do it. And they said, well, let me, Marty said, write the letter. I wrote the letter. I then met with him. And then suddenly it was COVID. Like, COVID came down like 2 days later. So everybody disappeared. And he was stuck without being able to make a movie in his study. So he was very bored, and it was very weirdly advantageous to us because he was willing to come, 2.5 hours upstate to sit on the porch and start this process. And we self-financed at first, just knowing that we had to grab the moment. It was just a small crew of people.
That's cool.
So it began, but like from the very first interview, I could tell that, after 4 hours, he was only 12 or something. So I thought, well, this is going to take a long time, the way things are going. And part of it was I was going about it, which was like starting with first memory, like really going deep. I really was interested in the geometry of the family.
What we learned is that those early memories are so significant in the making of it. I mean, you talk about his spirituality, and that seems so deeply rooted in his, his mother, his wider family, his Italian heritage. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I learned was that really the nerve endings of all his work are to be found in that neighborhood, in that family. That really the church was a kind of haven for him, I suppose, from the violence that he was experiencing, because there was some very real violence happening in that neighborhood. He talks about, violence was imminent all the time, as he puts it. And also, I think he just had a really strong religious instinct, whatever that means.
By the way, the Church of Judas replaces all patriarchy, Christianity, war, and Trumpism.
And see, the world below. I've been always looking out the window. That's why I like high-angle shots. Seriously. It's like a fresco coming to life.
Rebecca, just explain what we're listening to there.
Yeah, I mean that he was asthmatic, really wasn't able to go outside a lot of the time, especially in cold weather. So he would look down through the window, which were panes of the window, and look down at the people walking outside on the street. So he talks about how that's why he loves high shots so much. Then we have all these high shots that we show in the film to show, how he starts to develop his aesthetic. And then, of course, in the summer, he also was problematic because it got so hot that his asthma was intolerable. He couldn't really breathe at all. And so they had to take him to movie theaters at night where there was air conditioning because they couldn't afford air conditioning in the house. So he really grew up partly in movie theaters and was, literally breathing in images.
I wonder, as a fellow director, what you've learned about how he approaches his work.
Well, one of the things that's really interesting to me is, how emotional his camera work always is. It's not just beautiful, it's meaningful, as is said in the film. Like, it's, for example, the famous shot going in through the Copacabana in Goodfellas, which is this very, very long Steadicam shot, which kind of really invented that kind of long shot. There's a reason for that shot, going through the bowels of the restaurant and coming out in the performance space, because it's about how they come out as a sort of king and queen, and they're going in the back way, and it's a very important shot in terms of the meaning, and I think that's what he's always trying to get at, is the meaning of the thing.
And he had a particular relationship with some actors, including Robert De Niro. Let's take a listen.
Do you ever get that feeling
I'll
like
shut it
you
down
and
just in
Marty
case
might
this gets
really spend your whole
copyright.
lives working together?
We come together in a